OK, serious question. Is environmentalism bad for your mental health? Tragic reports recently of people taking their lives in fear of the malevolence of the sun monster. So tonight I thought it'd be interesting, instead of arguing about whether climate change is real, we should argue if it's healthy for us to talk about it so much. Joining me is Peter Knapp, spokesman for Extinction Rebellion. Peter, thank you for coming in. Now, I was on Tuesday, even more ill than I am now, and there was an interesting moment in our conversation when I was talking about this person that had taken their own life for fear of moving on. I caught you saying, I've been there. So what I wanted to say was, am I intruding to ask, are they linked at all, your personal sense of despair, if there was some, and climate?
Yes, they are linked. Okay. About 2 or 3 years ago, I really became aware of the climate situation. And I read this book by a guy called Jonathan Porritt called Hope in Hell. And it outlined a lot of the basics of what's happening. But it did it in a way which didn't really allow me to process it properly, because as a young male, I didn't develop the mental tools to deal with all of these emotions that were coming my way. Now, I mean, my granddad would have said to me, don't worry about it, chin up, you get on with it. And this kind of thing gets you through life to a certain point. It gets you through life until you reach a limit. And this is what happened to me. So after reading that book, it was really depressing. It was really hard. And because I was on my own, a lot of my family, my friends were seeing me kind of spiralling downwards. And they said to me, well, maybe it's not so bad. Or maybe we'll go for a walk. Or what's your favourite meal? Or let's put on The Simpsons. I don't know, whatever. They were trying to fix me in a way. But really what would have helped is for them to have listened to what I had to say in a way which wasn't about responding in a way to fix this. Nothing was going to fix this by a suggestion from these guys.
Do you think there's something about the human condition that is unfixable? For example, and I was reflecting myself on why I wanted to have this conversation with you, and I was thinking maybe a lot of the things I do are about my personal. It's an echo of what's going on inside of yourself.
Yeah.
So if there is a sort of nagging sense of despair and meaninglessness anyway, do you think that that's easy to put onto the climate, or is it something that's inside of us all?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends on the society that we grow up in. I grew up in the 80s, and
what cream do you use? You look
yes, yeah. I grew up seeing a lot of the TV shows that were from the 60s, were from the 70s, so it does kind of translate in a way. And there is this mentality of machoism, and men find it really difficult in our society to deal with things like shame and remorse and grief. And I know when
Sorry, what do you mean? Why do men find it difficult? Why? Because we're not encouraged to feel shame, remorse and grief?
Yeah.
I was looking at this. It's quite interesting. It said that 75% of people surveyed think that the future is frightening, and 50% of people said they felt sad, anxious, angry, powerless and helpless and guilty. So is there any... I'm really not trying to be disingenuous. Do you think there's something about environmentalism that's tapping into something that's already within us, a sense of we don't know what's coming tomorrow, therefore people want to predict what's coming tomorrow, therefore they create a solution to a problem which then will solve their inner torment?
This is exactly the cause of doomism, and what makes people feel that they need to know what's going to happen is exactly what you're saying. People have an insecurity in the unknown. And when it's about the future, as we're talking about in a grand scale, it can be very, very difficult for people to sit with. So they'll say, oh, well, the world's screwed. There's no point. Because it resolves that.
But what if the world isn't screwed? Just as...
I agree.
The idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been around this house, and it's a boring debate. The world hasn't particularly changed. Yes, we've got models that go up and down, and it's all of this. But what if the world isn't screwed? And that we're okay, and that I'm pointlessly putting my energy into anti-woke stuff, and you're pointlessly putting your energy into climate stuff.
Well, I would love for that to happen. I mean, if that turned out to be true, I would be...
Because we get on.
Yeah, of course we do.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when we... Yeah, if we did have a crystal ball, sure, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But it is important to know that we don't. And we have to
How do we know that we don't?
We don't have a crystal ball, or...
No, oh, sorry, I thought you were saying we don't have the world isn't going to be okay.
Oh,
so,
sure.
No, so you're going to make the argument that if there's a 1% chance that it's all going to hell, we've still got to pursue the 1% chance because the planet's going to...
Yeah, and I guess in a sense you're trying to quantify it as a 1%, and that makes it feel like it's not likely. But in reality, it's much more in the dominant side that things are going to go quite badly. But we have a choice now about how badly that goes. It's not... I don't think we have a choice in keeping things as they are. Things have to change, and I think everyone is...
What would you change tomorrow morning that you think the public would get on board with? If you could change just one thing tomorrow and you think, you know what, I've got 51% of the public will be on board with this. If you could inspire people to change and embrace what Extinction Rebellion are all about, what would you do first thing tomorrow morning?
It would be to create the citizens' assemblies.
Yeah, which is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Tell us about citizens' assemblies.
Everybody wants to have their voices heard. And why not allow that to be a bit more official? And that is a way to get the government to hear what the public think. But it's not just getting the public in to say what they think without any information. You have to get in there with some information. So you are given an outline of a problem that the government wants to solve, and you're given all of the information, and then in groups you work out what you want to do with that. So it's a kind of a democracy within a democracy. And I think
democracy.
Yeah. It's a lot more inclusive of people, I think, rather than just allowing politicians solely to make these decisions. And I think that is something everyone will get on board with, and it's really beggars belief why that isn't happening now.
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious why it doesn't happen now, because the reason why Extinction Rebellion even have any room is because politicians are so duplicitous and capricious about this whole thing anyway. But so your suggestion tomorrow morning would be groups of people to come together to try and look at the facts as much as they can and to try and talk about the world that they would like their children to live in moving forward.
Yeah.
So you're essentially what I said in my monologue, which is we've got to start from this position where we both agree, both sides of the argument, my cynical, sceptical side and your committed, possibly more devout side, that we both want the best thing for the planet. And therefore, bringing people together is the answer for that, which I don't think people would disagree with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think...
But, sorry to add a fly to this ointment.
Right.
People are hanging off bridges.
Yeah.
Disrupting everybody's way of life. And I would say that that's not bringing the public along with you. I'd say that's imposing difficulty to an already hard life for people, and you will lose public support that way. Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I do. I think we don't... It's... To get the kinds of changes that we need are going to be hard. Really, really hard.
Why? Why does everything have to be hard? Life is already hard.
I know, and this is the problem, right? Because people are really suffering and people are having a really tough lives at the moment. We don't want to be told, hey, let's do something even more difficult. But, you know, when JFK said, we don't go to the moon because it's easy, we go to the moon because it's hard. And this is a courage, and it's a bravery, and it's an ambition. And this is the kind of mentality that we don't really have. Instead, it's much more like, oh, the world's too difficult, I can't deal with any more change. But we're at a critical point where change is going to happen, and we have to make the decision about which direction that goes. When we talk about young people... sorry to interrupt you again. Are we not always at a critical point where change is going to happen? You know, I suppose, you know, if the Jordan Peterson readers will go, you know, make your bed. You're in charge of your own destiny. You can really make a difference in your life. So is that critical point not part of the human condition? So I'm with you all the way up to the fact that, you know, let's dream. I'm really with you. I think that's fantastic. But the minute I start to back off is when you go, change is happening whether you like it or not. And that feels a bit imposed. So is there something to say, look, we don't know that change is going to come, but there is a chance that mankind is contributing to the mass warming of this planet. And when one system breaks down, every system will break down, and it will happen very quickly. We need to be prepared, whatever. We need to preserve. Can we not make it positive in some way rather than going, look, it's doom. Game over? Absolutely, and when we talk about the mental health of young people, especially in coping with this, the positive messages are absolutely critical. in preventing real serious mental health issues. And when we talk about how that happens, it's getting people in the room who don't fight with each other, right? If you're feeling a certain way and you're being told that you're wrong for feeling that way, it's going to feel horrible. It has done for me, and I'm sure it has done for you, where you feel in a certain way and someone says, hey, you're wrong for feeling that. You should be thinking this. And when that happens to young people confronting the climate, it alienates them, makes them feel alone. So going back to what you said and what positive steps can be made, I think a lot of suggestions that are being put forward really have huge benefits to society. For example, if we were to have more public transport, that really does benefit everybody.
It does benefit everybody, but again, we come back to the solution.
Yeah.
Now, I would say what we've just done is have a conversation about whether we agree with the issue that needs to be raised. And I think it's really good, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm really grateful for you for being candid and open and human with me, because I think that's actually the ultimate way out of it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Pleasure.